Oh no, don't put that on there. People will see that Ken's Kitchen has the world's best chef and they'll be jealous. Don't put that on there. Okay, I'll get rid of it. Man, every time I come through that barrier, it gets harder and harder. It's colder and colder, even though it's getting to be summertime out there. Today we're going to make a great dish that some of you have had before, some of you probably haven't. It's called Salisbury Steak. Now, Salisbury Steak is made with ground beef. It's not actually made with steak. And it's a great dish to be served over mashed potatoes, over noodles, or over rice. And we're going to make some simple mashed potatoes today, and then we're going to make the Salisbury steak. And oh my gosh, it will be delicious. So, it's not a hard dish. Let's get started on this. Now, in case you didn't realize, we're in Ken's Kitchen, and I know I'm the world's best chef because it says so right here, world's best chef, so I must be. The easiest way to do this is with a sharp knife. I start with just a regular chef's knife. You can use the one with the dimples. The dimples are there. It's usually a lot for fruit or red meat. Anything wet, because it allows the oxygen to get in there so it doesn't stick to the potato. So we can start with just this one. We're going to cut our potato down. The smaller the pieces you cut it in, the quicker it boils. But I just cut mine once halved, and then in pieces. And we're going to go like that until we're ready to put it in the pan. Now, throughout the video today, you're going to be hearing my bird. Can't help it. He knows we're eating. He wants some of the food. He eats whatever we eat. I have a cast iron wok. It's a little bit of my pride. I love to use this. I don't get to very often. So I'm going to use this today for putting my mashed potatoes in to boil. Now, you can see I fill it with water. I've got it on high. I fill it with hot water. There's a gentleman out there, an Uncle Roger, who calls cast iron white people wok. Well, Uncle Roger, I have a cast iron wok. So what do you have to say about that? So I'm going to let that start to boil. As soon as this is boiling, we'll put our potatoes in. In the meantime, we're going to get started on our Salisbury steak. While our water's getting ready to boil, we're going to go over the ingredients we need for a Salisbury steak. It's a simple dish to make. Like I said, it's a little bit time consuming, but it's not hard at all. If you want to find the entire list of ingredients we need today for this, go to CHEFKenDad.INFO. Not only will you see the links to all my other YouTube channels, you'll also see the link to my OutSchool channel where I teach young or small humans how to cook, and it has the lists of all of the ingredient lists for every recipe you're going to see here. We're going to start with 1 pound of ground beef. I get mine locally ground at a place called Ebel's Market in Falmouth, Michigan. They don't pay me to tell anybody about this place, so you know it must be good if I'm hawking their store and they're not giving me any money. But I wouldn't stop them. So we're going to start a pound of ground beef. We're going to need mushrooms. If you don't like mushrooms, you don't have to use mushrooms. You can use slivered onions instead. I've seen broccoli in it, but I tell everybody, if you want peanut butter on your quesadilla, put peanut butter on your quesadilla. This is your dish. We're going to need breadcrumbs. I like the Italian style breadcrumbs. Not very often do I use the plain. This is going to add a little bit of flavor, and it's going to help add a consistency to the hamburger patties we're going to be making. We're going to need French onion soup or condensed French onion soup. I use Campbell's. Again, they're not paying me. I wouldn't stop them from throwing money my way, but it makes a difference. And something I really love to add to things, the Lipton Recipe Secrets. This is just the dried onion soup mix. This can go in a lot of things. I make a chip dip with it. You can add it to macaroni and cheese. You'll never eat macaroni and cheese differently again. We need a bottle of, and not a lot of, Worcestershire sauce. Not many people say it right. Worcestershire. I call it Worcester sauce. You can call it what you want, but you know what it is, and we're going to need it. We're going to need butter for the mashed potatoes, and we're going to need milk for the mashed potatoes. No less than 2%. 1% milk is nothing more than white water. Now we're going to, oh yeah, and ketchup. We're going to use ketchup too. Not only is ketchup going to help us give it a flavor, ketchup is going to help it brown and crisp quickly in the pan when we're cooking it. We're going to cook it about 80 to 90% the way cooked before we put it in the gravy, and we'll let it finish cooking in the gravy. Our water's still heating for the potatoes. It might be better for you if you're going to do this to use a cast iron 6-quart pot, any other kind of Dutch oven type pot that a lid can go on top of. Having a lid will keep the heat in and let that water heat up much faster. But to get started on the Salisbury steak patties, we're going to start with a large mixing bowl. I prefer the glass clear so you can see through and see what's going on a lot easier. Alright, what we're going to do now is just add our 1 pound of ground beef. Anytime you're using anything red, whether it's any kind of red meat, hamburger, steak, roast, anything you're going to be using, let it sit out for, I usually go 45 minutes to an hour. You want it room temperature. It will cook much better if it's at room temperature. Now we're going to need a ½ cup of breadcrumbs for every pound of hamburger. But you know me, I like the blurble. You have to learn to cook by eye. This can't be something you always have to rely on to know how to do an exact measure. So we're going to free pour about a ½ cup, and there we go. That's a blurble of breadcrumbs. From there, we're going to add a ¼ cup of milk. Again, a blurble. How much is that? You can do an exact measure of a ¼ cup, or you can do that, which is about a ¼ cup. Now, it calls for, I believe, a teaspoon of Worcestershire, of Worcester sauce. Now, there's a way to do this if you want to get a good mix of Worcestershire in your items. I use Lee & Perrin. I think it's the best Worcestershire sauce you can get. I have another one backup I just purchased just in case I run out. You can get an off-brand for much cheaper. I always recommend, if you can't tell a difference, if I can't tell a difference, I'll tell you, get the cheaper one. I want my name to show. But in this case, I do taste a difference, and I think you would too, but it's all up to you. I'm going to take 4 shakes of Worcestershire. Now, we don't tip it sideways and shake the bottle sideways. If you look at the top, you'll be able to see. Let me see if I can go this way. There's a little hole there. That's for a good measure. So we're going to take it 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. I did another half. I love it. I love the taste of this. Don't put it on there and shake it sideways. Don't try to pour it into a spoon because you're going to make a mess. That's the best way. Is another one of those eyeball, blurble ways of cooking. Now we're coming back to our mixture. We still have it sitting here. We're going to need an egg. A whole egg. Open it. Put it in. Don't worry about getting salmonella on your hands or anything like that. It's not in the egg. The story of salmonella being inside an egg, it's on the outside shell. It doesn't come in the egg itself, so you're not going to eat it raw. Anyways, if you want to wash your hands right now, you can. That's all up to you. I'm not going to tell you you have to. I'm not going to tell you not to. Now, this is the point where we're going to add half of this bag of Lipton onion soup mix, the dry mix. Because we're going to add another one to the gravy when we make it. Shake it up, pour half. You can see little bits of onion going in. They're going to cook down quite a bit. You won't even know they're there. but this is a flavor you really want to have in there. Then we're going to open up 1 can of our onion soup, and we're going to pour just a quarter, about this much of the top, this much of the broth if we can. If some onions go in too, you're fine. Don't worry about it. There's going to be onions everywhere in this, and onion flavoring. But we're just going to try to add the broth at this point. The easiest way to get some broth is, instead of using a can opener that's going to open the entire top off, we can use this. It's an old-fashioned can opener from back in the day, as they say. If all we're going to do is open it a little bit, just to let some air go in on one side, let it pour out the other side, we can take this can now, and we can just pour juice. The onions will block it from coming out. That's okay. Some onions are still going to come out with it. That's another blurble by eye. That's about right. We're going to quit there, and we're going to save the rest for the gravy. The water's starting to heat up nicely. You can see it's starting to talk to us. There's bubbles coming up. It's letting us know it's about to boil. I'm really curious to see how... I've never made mashed potatoes this way. I've never made them in a wok before. But I bet they're going to come out great. It's steaming. It's about to boil. We'll be adding our potatoes in just a minute. In this case, you're going to need at least a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. I like a little bit more. I like the flavor it brings out. So what I'm going to do is just pour some into my hand. If you do it about the size of a 1/4, you've got a tablespoon. So if you do it about the size of a dime, you'll have a 1/2 of a teaspoon. There you go. That's all you got to do. And what do we call that? We call that a blurble of salt. We also need a 1/4 teaspoon of honey, or of mustard salt, ground mustard. I already put it in and the tape corrupted, so I'm not going to add it again. You just got to trust me that it's in there and you want to add to it. Now comes the favorite part of nearly every single small human that I have in my classes when I'm going to teach them how to make this dish. You can make this with a KitchenAid or a Hobart, anything you have with a paddle that will mix it for you. However, I recommend you do this with your hands a few times. How do you know if a machine's doing it right if you haven't experienced how your hands do it? So all we're going to do is mix this like Play-Doh. You're going to get in there. Pretend like it's somebody you don't like. Pretend it's your sister. Pretend it's your brother. Don't pretend it's your significant other. Not at all. You want to get this all mixed in. If it comes out a little wet for you, this is just about perfect, but we may need just a tad more, a blurble more of breadcrumbs. It's a little bit pastier than we'd like it. We don't want it as firm and thick as a hamburger. We want it to cook moist, but we do want it to be a very moist burger. We want it to be soft. So what we're going to do is, I'm going to wash my hands because I don't have anybody handy. If we did, we'd just ask somebody to pour some more for us. And then we're going to add some more breadcrumbs. I've washed my hands. I may edit that out. I may not. Who knows? You're supposed to sing happy birthday while you do it. So, a little bit more breadcrumb. A blurble more. And I bet that's going to be perfect. So, since our hands are clean, let's get in there. Yes, it feels good now. It feels really good. It doesn't stick to the pan or the bowl. Lifts up. And it's going to make some really, really good patties. We're going to mix it some more. Mix it some more. I would not recommend putting any mushrooms in this. You're going to want the mushrooms to cook in the gravy in a minute. And once you have this ready to go, get yourself a plate. And we're going to take a hamburger, enough hamburger in your hand that you can roll it the same way you would a snowball. Get it a little bit firmed and just flatten it out. It's going to feel wet on your hands. It's going to want to stick. That's okay. You can lengthen them. You can make them, lengthen like a Salisbury steak usually comes when you expect it in a professional setting, like that. You can make round. You can make them look like a teddy bear if you like. It won't taste any different no matter how you make them. Sometimes they fit in the pan better. And sometimes there's just a traditional look. When you expect to be making Salisbury steak for somebody who's had it before, they're going to expect it to look like a Salisbury steak patty. There we go. So I'll probably get 6 out of this 1 pound, and maybe 7. Depends on how much you want to make, how many people you're making, or how many people you're feeding. So keep rolling, getting it firm, shaping it. There we go. Another perfect patty. Yeah, I know. I like to say the things I do are perfect, but they look really good. And it smells good. When you're doing this right now, you're going to be able to smell that Worcester sauce mixing in with everything. It's just going to be really, really good. There we go. And I might have to make one bit. I can make 2 smaller. All right, I didn't portion them perfectly. If I want to get 6, I got to make 2 smaller ones. Maybe the smaller humans want smaller ones, and the larger humans want some larger ones. So we'll make a smaller one there, and we'll take the last of it right here. And we could even break this up at the end if we want, and just make this part of the gravy. It's up to you how you want to do it. Like I say always, it's your dish. All right, our water is just about ready. It's getting very close. Would have heated up faster if we would have used something with a lid. But I'm going to add all of my chopped potatoes to it now. Let them cook. And when they're ready, we're going to make a nice mashed potato. As you can see, I left the skin on. You can see the air is already coming out of the potatoes. It's nice and hot. That's going to work out really well for us. And there we're at the longest part of the production of this dish is making the patties. If you're going to make 2 pounds and feed more people, obviously double what you put in. Maybe less liquid if you want them firmer. It's up to you. You can alter this dish however you want. There are no steadfast rules that say you have to do it this way. Like I said, you can add what you like, you can take out what you like, you can cook it longer, you can cook it less. I prefer to cook these patties we're about to do 80% finished, so that they finish cooking in the gravy. I find that they don't shrink up as much when I do it that way. So that's where we're at now. We're going to let our potatoes go. This is going to be about a 5-minute break here that will look instantaneous to you, and we're going to start cooking our patties off. All right, here's our cast iron pan. Our skillet. We're going to be cooking the patties in. You can see I have my insulated handle, so no more burning of myself. We're going to start this on high. We're going to turn it down in a second or two. And once it gets warm, we're going to be adding a blurble and a half of olive oil. The best way to tell when it's hot is your hand 8 inches above it, circle it like this. Don't touch the pan. Don't put your hand into it. When your hand right here feels the temperature of the pan the same, you're going to know it's time to get started. All right, and here we go. Get yourself a spatula, a nice wide spatula, something that's going to be nice and sturdy. If you use something that's going to be this kind of soft, it's not going to work for you. You need something you can scrape the bottom of the pan with. So that's hot. We're going to add our blurble of olive oil. Maybe a blurble and a half. 1, 2, 1 for good measure. Now, we're going to move that oil around, covering the whole bottom of the pan. There we go. Give that oil a second to get hot, because it doesn't take long. That oil will get the same temperature of the pan really quick. And what we're going to do is start laying in our patties. When you lay them in, lay them away from you. Lay it toward you and let it fall away, so the splatter moves away from you. Same thing here. Let me turn this light off, and it'll be easier to see. And it is. But what we're trying to do is just lay them away from us. You can see the different sizes, the first 2 compared to that. And that's all we're going to put in. We have 2 more to go, but we're going to put those in and let them start cooking up. They're going to cook quickly. Now the ketchup and the breadcrumbs that are in these Salisbury steak patties are going to make the outside cook rather quickly. They're going to brown quick, they're going to crisp quick, they're going to look spotty, donutty, browny, blacky, irregular, kind of weird. But that's what you expect. That's what they should be. Almost like a flour, a chicken flour would kind of spot up on you. So you'll see it in a minute, but it does not take long. You're going to have a maximum 2 minutes per side. Because like I said, you don't want these fully cooked until they've been soaking in the in the gravy for a good 20 minutes. That's how long they're going to simmer. And they will finish cooking in the gravy. Or the grease. Or whatever you want to call it. The potatoes are kind of looking sad. They're not boiling yet. They should be, but they're not. I think I will never cook them again in a wok unless I'm frying them. But it was a fun experiment to find out. They'll finish cooking. They'll be perfect. They'll just take a little longer than we had planned. All right, these have only been in there a minute and 40 seconds by my clock. And when I flip them, you can see. You see how they turn brown, blackish? They're not burnt. They're just cooked. That's flavor happening right there. And that's what I tell everybody. The bottom of the pan is where the flavor is happening. But those are perfect. That's what you want right there. You want a nice browned burger patty. And they are getting a little bit crispy. That gives them a lot of consistency to hold up when you're cutting and you're eating them. Now what I'm going to do is put my other two in now. As long as I keep track of which ones are done and which ones are not, I'll be fine. Remember, maximum 2 minutes per side. You'll be able to tell yourself when they get to be like this if they have cooked enough. Yep, them some sad potatoes. They're cooking slowly, but they're cooking. Now let's see what's going on over here in our pan. We're going to flip them again, see how they're perfectly cooking up. Oh, they're looking beautiful. Those are the first ones we cooked. That one needs another minute or so, so we'll turn it back over. That one's there. Whoop, dropped it off the spatula, didn't I? That one's perfect. Whoa. There we go. Trying to look in two directions at once. And that one could use another minute on the other side. So we're looking good. Those are looking beautiful. Those are not as dark as they appear on camera. I need a better camera. That's a better shot right there. Look at that. Those are beautiful. Now you can see that they're cooking really well. This is the first one we put in, or the third one, I'm sorry. You can see both sides are looking the same. We're going to take out our two little ones. We'll flip them over so you can see. Those look delicious. Those are really nice. Third one. These are our last two that need another minute or so to cook. Meanwhile, we're putting the other ones aside. And we're going to be making our gravy right in there. And our potatoes are still sad. Alright, I've turned my heat down to low. I've let the pan cool a little bit. I'm going to put both of my cans of onion soup mix in. You can hear it sizzling. That's just a heat exchange from the temperature of the can of soup to the cast iron. It'll level out in a minute. Now I cut my lids off so I can put them back in. There's a school of thought that you leave them attached at the edge, because when you leave them attached at the edge, you know where the lid is and it doesn't get separated from the can. And you can push it down in when you throw it away. The trouble is, when you have your lid still attached to your can and you're pouring, if you're not super careful, you can cut yourself on the edge of that lid. It's sharp. It's super sharp. So my best recommendation is to take that lid off, put it aside, and like I did, put the lid back inside the can so it doesn't cut the garbage bag, and then throw it away. The more you know. Alright, we're back at our gravy. We're going to add the rest of our dry onion soup mix. Get that stirred in. It's at this point, if you want mushrooms, you add mushrooms. If you want onions, you put them in now. How many is up to you? How few is up to you? But they're going to need to cook for a little bit to get soft, because you want them a little bit soft before you start simmering your beef. I'm going to let this marinate for at least 10 minutes. So for the next 10 minutes, I'll be bopping around pretending I'm doing things here. You'll never really know. And when I get back, you'll know my 10 minutes has passed. Okay, we got about 5 minutes to go till the mushrooms are caught up. At this point, you have a decision to make. Do you want tomato in with it or not? I think you should. We don't want to waste food though. If you make it with tomato and nobody in your house likes it, nobody's going to eat it. You're going to waste your food. If everybody likes tomato, you can add to it. I'm not going to waste food just to show you something that common sense can show you what to do. Take 2 tomatoes, cut them into chunks, bite-sized chunks. Don't have to be perfect, don't have to be exact, don't have to be proportioned to each other. Chop up 2 tomatoes, throw it right in that gravy. Take a half a can of tomato paste, a small can, put it right in that gravy. Stir it up, let it sit 5 more minutes. It's that simple. And I think, personally, it sets it off beyond everything. Whoop, I got to turn my gravy down. It's starting to bubble. But it's up to you. Like I said, you want tomato in there, and I highly recommend it. Chop it up, put it in, get tomato paste, half a can, put it in, and let it simmer 5 more minutes. Okay, it's been simmering for 10 minutes for me. And you have another decision to make now. Do you have enough gravy, or do you want more? I think there's always room for more gravy. If you've added your tomatoes and your tomato paste, the tomato paste will help thicken that up. You probably don't need any more thickening consistency added to it. But I did not add it to mine, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add just a simple beef broth. You can make a beef broth if you want out of bouillon and hot water. Make it to taste and add to it. How much? No more than a cup at this point. We can thicken it with a little bit of flour in a few minutes. A cup more will be just enough to cover all of your patties. I'll show you how I'm going to do it. You take the container, you open it, and you pour. About a cup. That's all you need. Now, I'm going to have more than enough gravy to cover my patties. I'm going to turn this up to medium to heat that back up for a couple minutes. And once it starts to bubble, we're going to add a thickening agent to it. Alright, you can see that it's boiling now. What we're going to do is take a half a handful of flour, another blurble, and sprinkle it easily around. Just that much. You don't need any more than that. You don't want to overdo it. Stir that in right away. You're going to get some flour clumps. Don't worry about it. People are going to tell you have to mix it with milk first. Not in this recipe. If you just put that in, stir it in until you don't see any more dry flour, those clumps are going to break up over the next 20 minutes and it's going to thicken. That's all you need to make a nice gravy. Now we're going to let that cook for a couple more minutes and put our beef back in it. Okay, we're at our final stage now. We're coming to the end here. We're going to take our patties that turned out beautifully and we're just going to put them all into the gravy. That's all we're going to do. Make sure they get into the gravy. I had to eat a piece that already fell off. It was delicious. And what we're going to do now is let them sit for just like that for 10 minutes on low, on the lowest setting you have, and just sit in there and cook slowly. In 10 minutes, flip them over, stir up the gravy a little bit, let them sit for another 10 minutes, and then you are done. That's all there is to it. So, I'll be back to show you how to flip them, what they should look like. We're going to take a taste, and we're going to check on those pesky potatoes. Now, as I told you earlier, you can add whatever you want to this dish. I had a last-minute request for bell peppers, so I had some green, yellow, and red I've chopped up in big enough bite-sized pieces to be tasted, And when I flip the burger patties with 5 minutes left or 10 minutes left to marinate, I'm going to put the peppers in with it. And right on time. Here we're going to flip these. Oh, they're looking beautiful. That really, really dark part has soaked away into the gravy. They're just a beautiful brown now. They're solid, I mean firm, not solid. And that didn't flip, but there it did. And now we're just adding our peppers. We're going to let this marinate. Get that in there. Another 10 minutes. And in 10 minutes, this is going to be perfect. Well, our mashed potatoes were still arguing with us. They have a mind of their own. So the only way I could find to keep the heat in was I put the colander on upside down and they're boiling away. So they're going to catch up. We're going to get them done in time. Just ingenuity is the mother of invention, and you will figure it out. I wanted you to know that I could have, like most shows, edited this out, restarted the mashed potatoes, cooked them quicker, but we all make mistakes. We all got to try things that don't turn out. I thought this would work. In my head, though, something was saying, it won't, nothing's going to trap the heat. I wanted to try it anyway. Now I know. Now you know. There is nothing wrong with trying. You got an idea? Try it. Most great inventions we have now and dishes that you eat everywhere were the result of accidents or unintentional tries. Formula 409 is a cleaner. It's called Formula 409 because the first 408 didn't work. WD-40 is a lubricant for mechanics. It's called WD-40 because the first 39 didn't work. Try it. You'll never know until you try. I did this. I came up with something. It's keeping in the heat. I didn't have a lid big enough. It worked. You can try whatever you want. I had a small human last week that didn't want to put beef base or the broth in their gravy. She held her guns against my best objections. She made it without it. It still came out delicious, and they loved it. So don't let anybody tell you not to. You want to try something, go ahead and try it. If it doesn't work, so what? Try it again later, make it work. And just like that, the potatoes are done. Okay, it's time to drain the potatoes. I have my colander in the sink. I'm turning my faucet onto cold. I'm letting that run next to the potatoes. That water is so hot it could ruin your pipes. Turn the cold water on, let it run for a minute before you strain your potatoes. And here we go. Pour it slowly, because you don't want it to splatter on you. And then let the water run for a few more minutes to offset that temperature. Now, something to keep in mind when you're making mashed potatoes. Sometimes in your life you've probably had them where they came out rubbery and pasty. It's because the butter and the milk were still cold. If you mix cold butter and milk with mashed potatoes and then mix them up, they're going to come out like rubber. So what I do is I leave my milk out for a while. I left it out so it get warm, but not terribly warm. But I'm going to let it go into the pan that the potatoes came out of. And I'm going to turn that on until the butter is melted. That'll keep it from burning. It'll keep the milk from burning. It'll just get warm enough for everything to melt up before I add my potatoes back to it. And then we're going to mash them. So we're going to let that melt down. While we're waiting, we can look over here. Our Salisbury steak is done. We're going to turn it off, and we're just going to sit in that gravy and stay nice and hot while we look back at our potatoes. The butter is melting. And you can feel it. It's actually hot. So we're going to turn it off. Our potatoes have been draining. Going to pour our potatoes in. And we're going to use our handy dandy potato masher. And we're going to do it manually. We could put these in a blender. We could put these in a mixer. We could, however we want to do it. We can use a handheld cake mixer. If you don't learn to do things by hand, you will never know how it should be with a machine. I like those skins in there. They add a bit of color to it, a little bit of an appeal. We got that mixed up. It's a really good consistency. And my favorite all-around seasoning, Lawry's seasoned salt. You can get it by different manufacturers. It doesn't taste the same. This is another one of those. I'm going to tell you, Lawry's is the one to get. They don't pay me. Nobody pays me. If I'm telling you something is better, it's a personal opinion. I think you're going to notice the difference as well. Lawry's is all you need in there. You can doctor them up. You can still put bacon bits in there if you like. You can put cheddar chunk cheese in there. Let it melt into there. I've been known to put cream cheese in, with cream cheese mix in through it, make it a little bit sweeter. But that's it right there. That's all we need to do. All right. Any good chef at this point is going to check his product. See how it tastes. Let's see. Oh my God. That was fantastic. In fact, I'm getting another spoon. I'm going to try a little bit of the beef, a little bit of the gravy, a little bit of mushroom, a little bit of green pepper. It's hot, but it is so good. You are going to love this. Taste it before you serve it. If you put in the tomatoes, you'll taste the tomato. If you put in the bell peppers, you'll taste the bell peppers. Mushrooms, you'll taste them as you chew into them. They're a perfect consistency. And that steak, that Salisbury steak, has a flavor like nothing else. We're going to scoop up some mashed potatoes now. We're going to put some over it. I'm going to show you the final product. Then I'm going to tell you, go eat. All right. Yes, this is a different spoon. It's not the one I tasted out of. There's some mashed potatoes. Oh, they look good too. I should have tried them. Mashed potatoes. Salisbury steak. Gravy. Look at that gravy. Oh, it turned out beautifully. Oh, is that great or what? Now remember, you can serve this over mashed potatoes like we did. You can serve it over rice. You can pre-cook your rice and mix it right in with it if you like. You can serve it over noodles, over bread, or just by itself. That dish is perfect and it is delicious. And there you have it. A beautiful dish of Salisbury steak to cook for your family. Lots of variations for you to try while you're cooking it. If you think of something else, just do it. There's no reason not to. Try what you like. My favorite saying, and I've said it before, and I've even said it a few minutes ago, if you like peanut butter on your quesadilla, put peanut butter on your quesadilla. These are your dishes. But this one came out perfect. This one came out exactly like it's supposed to, and it is delicious. So, I'm going to let you go eat. And remember, this is Chef Ken Dad saying, please like and subscribe. It's the only way I'm going to grow. I need you to like. I need you to subscribe. I need you to tell your friends. If you don't have any friends, just tell the people you know. So this is Chef Ken Dad signing off saying, baking is science, but cooking is art.